Hello, class and professor. This is going to be my mammal survey on Mount Rainier National Park. It's a local, it's the national park here in Washington State. It's the biggest, it's most well known, it's even on our license plates. And I figured there'd be a lot of mammals that we could learn about while we go through and find out about. So, without further ado, we'll get into it with a little bit of background on Mount Rainier National Park. Again, all the images are taken by me other than some of the animals, which have been cited through there. Alright, let's go forward. Alright, Mount Rainier background information. This is Mount Rainier. This is heading up to Longmire, which is the first base camp from the Mount Highway entrance. Alright, so Mount Rainier is the 5th national park in the United States, which was founded in 1899. The mountain itself is an active stratovolcano, more in tune with our class. There's thought to be over 65 mammal species that call Mount Rainier home. It's also known as the most glaciated peak in the contiguous United States, and the mountain itself is around 14,410 feet tall. And it spawns around 5 rivers from the mountain itself. Alright, let's get down to a little bit more information. Alright, so this is from one of the lookouts approaching Myrtle Falls, is detailed here. Mount Rainier background continued. There's around 236,380 acres, or around 369.370 square miles, and it's all federally protected property. The majority of it is covered in webcams to monitor flora and fauna, as well as park visitors, protect the animals, and things like that. There are off-limit zones to people within the park. I tried to go through mainly the trails to make sure I didn't have any problems there. There's a multitude of rules. Where to bring pets, pick up, and not put any waste or disturb the animals within the park. Alright, so some of the methods we did, myself and my wife went out through on 2 separate occasions, and what we did was we went to 4 legally allowed areas in Mount Rainier on foot. This is Nisqually Vista and Skyline and Myrtle Falls, which are both near Paradise, which is the higher area. And then we did the Trail of Shadows and Christine Falls Trail. All of them are around a mile-ish. I went around to check for scat, tracks, things in the area. There's so many animals in this and that. Try to focus in on 4 to concentrate the efforts. And then after that, we proceeded to search up the road to the mountain from base camp to base camp, those being Longmire Base Camp and Paradise. And between the road, we also did an outside to inside pattern to look for animals around the base camps, and attempted to locate any park personnel, which we weren't able to really do. And we had a backup plan if we were unable to locate personnel. We were going to use the website or check out the maps and signage that would help direct us towards what we needed to know. So, this is another lookout area in the park. We checked for recent mammal surveys in the area to compare to, and checked all the areas in similar fashion, high and low on the trail, staying on them as to not disturb the wildlife. We went through the wide open areas and moved inwards, as I stated, and we tried to write down and photograph any tracks, scatter animals. Then from there, we detailed that data collected. We went 2 different days, starting at noon and ending at 3. We did this on the 8th and the 15th. Alright, the first one we're going to be looking at, we have the image over here is black-tailed deer from the actual NPS website. So black-tailed deer is one of the most common that we have, and it's a subspecies of mule deer that weighs between 94 to 330 pounds. It's a wide range because I included both male and female in there, with females generally topping out around like 150-ish. They are generally living around 7 years in the wild and 22 in captivity, and reach sexual maturity around 478 days for females and 508 for males. Ecology, the niche of these animals they are prey to carnivores, but they are also known as a keystone species and are known to help deal with the primary producers and disperse seeds in the park, among other things. The habitat requirements for these guys is dense coniferous forests full of grass and vegetables for them to eat, and they are an edge-adapted species to coastal forests, which means they kind of end up on the edge of the areas and eat from there. Alright, on to the next one. The gulo, the wolverine. This is an image captured on a webcam. This actually shows a trail cam, which shows the first instance of wolverines in the park in nearly 100 years, which was thought to be locally extinct in our area. So that's pretty interesting. They generally weigh around 26 to 40 pounds, and is actually a member of the weasel family, with a broad rounded head and a bushy tail. Wolverines are solitary animals, but will come together generally for mating, as you can see in the small group, and they generally live around 5 to 7 years, but have also been known to live up to 13. They are scavengers. They have very few natural predators, and they also serve to not only be scavengers and clean up what the other predators don't, but they help control rodent populations. Their habitat requirements are in alpine and subalpine forests, and they prefer rocky terrain, and they generally stay in boreal or subarctic conditions, farther away and up higher away from humans, so they're generally hard to find. The black bear, or the Ursus americanus, they're generally between 150 to 500 pounds. They generally have brown to black fur and stand over 6 feet tall and can live up to 30 years, but they average around 10. They're omnivores. They generally act as foragers, help control insect and larvae populations, as well as that of other predators and herbivores. They generally prefer dense forests with heavy brush and abundant food sources. They're unlikely to be found by humans because generally they like to stay higher up in altitude, where you don't see them. The picture up above in the upper right hand corner is actually talking about not leaving food. Oh, sorry about that. We'll go back there. Not leaving food or anything because, as it says, you're in bear country, and they would actually have to destroy the bears because it could actually encourage them to come towards humans. Alright, on to the next one. We're going to go to the mountain beaver. The mountain beaver, it looks a lot more like a small weasel with short limbs with 5 toes, and they weigh about 800 grams, which is right around 2 pounds, and have reddish to gray-brown fur. And they're generally solitary creatures, but in a concentrated area they have been known to make small groups of 4 to 6. They're known as burrowers that aerate the soil through their tunnel systems, and they're also a host to many parasites, around 29 different kinds. They generally like temperate second growth and boreal forests, heavily wooded areas where they can hide, and it is known to be the most primitive living rodent species. Alright, so conclusion from our survey. While checking the 5 different areas by foot, only 4 animals were able to be directly observed, and that was the black-tailed deer, which I wasn't able to get a picture of because it was generally while we were driving up and they were darting across the road. No scattered tracks due to small amounts of snow and being on the trails. Generally the animals traverse farther away from humans. There were signage stating that the animals were in the area and nearby. Other than that, we were only able to really find evidence of the black-tailed deer. While these animals are verified by scats and trail cams, they're generally farther away from human areas for the animals and the humans' protection. In conclusion, I believe the survey method I used was unsuccessful due to not only the large, over 300 square mile area of the park, but the limited resources I had as well to conduct this. I think a larger team would be able to make this a little bit easier. Alright, improvements and recommendations. When conducting a mammal survey, I believe it'd be easier to narrow down something to maybe 1 or 2 animals, as well as see if I could garner access to trail cameras or anything like that that exists, or go to a smaller park, as Mount Rainier, again as I stated, is over 300 miles, so is over 300 square miles, making it hard to traverse and go over everything, as well as maybe place calls beforehand to find optimal survey locations when I cannot find people, and then try and gain access to some of the trail cams and go from there. As far as information I was able to garner from the Park Service, since my survey was unsuccessful, I was able to find that the Park Service had an estimated amount that they were looking at for each of these species, with around 18,000 black-tailed deer within the park. And again, as the wolverine was a rare animal, they stated about 25 individuals that were within the radius of the park. And it was believed also that through previous population surveys that there were around 2,723 of the mountain beavers as far as that population. And as far as the black bear, there's between 200 and 300 bears. Again, because of the vast distance of the park and the dense wooded areas of the park, it makes these things hard. Mount Rainier does have a database, which I encourage everyone to look at as they make recommendations on where to find animals, as well as you can report that so it can help the park personnel further from there. Alright, so lastly, onto the references. As I state, we have references using both National Park Service as well as the Animal Diversity Web for some of our animals that we looked into, as well as, again, all the mountain photographs were taken by me and my wife going through. I hope everyone has a nice day, and look forward to hearing from everyone.